Hola!
Hola!
Bienvenidos a LightSpeed Spanish!
Bienvenidos!
And welcome to number 1 in our videocasts of Early Intermediate.
Early Intermediate.
Early Intermediate. As we said, we're starting to redo the videocasts that we did a long while ago. So today we're going to be talking about the present perfect tense, which in Spanish is...
El pretérito perfecto compuesto.
Oh, ok. Pues hablamos de todo en la segunda parte. The first thing that we better do is to tell you what the present perfect tense is in English. That is, I have eaten, she has spoken, we have gone.
So we have the auxiliary verb to have and then the past participle.
Yeah. And the auxiliary verb is called the auxiliary verb because it's a helper verb. It helps the structure along. So I have is the auxiliary and then the past participle. Yeah. And how do you say past participle in Spanish?
El participio.
Participio. Okay. So, would you believe, thank God for that in Spanish they have exactly the same tense and they use it in just about exactly the same ways we do in the UK. Although in the US, it isn't a tense that is as popular as it is in the UK.
And also there are some areas of Spain and in Latin America in which this tense is not as used.
Sure, absolutely. However, here in Spain, in general, it's a tense that's used on a daily basis in conversation all of the time. So how is it made? Well, let's consider the auxiliary verb, the helper verb, which is the verb in Spanish.
Haber.
Haber. And it breaks down, it conjugates. Haber conjugates. So how does it go, Cynthia?
Yo he, tú has, él ha, nosotros hemos, vosotros habéis, ellos han.
Okay. So that's the I have, you have, he, she has. Okay, that's that part. And then we've got the participle. Okay, el participio. And we make that, it's really quite easy, apart from the irregular ones, because there's always irregular, isn't there? It's really quite easy. And how you do it is you take an AR verb, for example, take off the AR and add ado. So, for example, hablar would be what, Cynthia?
Hablado.
Okay. So that takes to speak into spoken. Okay. With ER verbs, we do the same. We take the AR off, but we add ido. So comer would be?
Comido.
So that's taking to eat into eaten. I have eaten. Yeah. With IR verbs, we take the IR off and we add ido as well. And so vivir would be?
Vivido.
Vivido, okay, which is lived. So they're the two parts. So we've got the past participle, ado, ido, and then we've got the front end, the helper bit, okay? So let's make some sentences.
Okay.
For example, I can say to Cynthia, this is the tense, so we'll tell you about when we use it, but this is the tense for asking people questions. Cynthia, ¿qué has comido hoy?
Hoy he comido patatas y verduras.
So that question, what have you eaten? And Cynthia answers, he comido. So my question is, ¿qué has comido? What have you eaten? And Cynthia says, he comido. The comido never changes. It's just fixed. The only thing that you'll change is the person, I have or you have or whatever, yeah? This tense is used when you're talking about a time frame that you were still in. That's why I can say to Cynthia, ¿qué has comido hoy? Why? Because we're in today. Today we're still happening, yeah? But what I can't do with this tense is talk about it, use it when we're talking about times that are finished. For example, I can't say to Cynthia, ¿qué has comido ayer? All right? I mean, I can say it, but I shouldn't. And you shouldn't because we're outside of yesterday. Yesterday's finished. So we've got to be in times where we're still in it. For example, what ways do we use it? Time frames that we're still in.
For example, today, this morning,
Esta mañana,
this afternoon,
esta
this
tarde,
evening,
esta noche,
this week, this
esta
year,
semana.
this century. It doesn't matter, but you have to be in it.
Exactly. You got to be in it to win it. Yeah. So it's always about a time frame that you're still in. You're always at the back end of the time frame. Yeah. Always, inevitably. And there's one question which is very common, which is talking about a time frame, but which one? When I say, for example, to you, Cynthia, ¿alguna vez has visitado Australia?
No, nunca he visitado Australia.
So have you ever visited Australia? ¿Alguna vez has is have you ever? Yeah.
So we say, sometime have you visited Australia?
Yeah, and we use ever, but it's the same thing. The thing is, we're talking about there in your lifetime. Yeah, so you in your lifetime, have you ever visited Australia? So we're talking about a time frame that we're still in. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you're still in your lifetime.
Well, absolutely.
Time frame.
And hopefully not at the back end, I'm going to say.
We're always at the back end of the time frame. We don't have any choice.
So, Gordon, what happens if the sentence is in negative form? For example, in English, you say, I have not, or I haven't, visited Australia.
Okay,
But what
good
happens
question.
in Spanish?
Easy in Spanish. All you have to do is take the same sentence, he visitado España, and you put no in front. No he visitado España.
Okay,
Yeah?
and if you use the pronoun, where will you put the pronoun?
Okay, great. So that's what I was going to talk about. The he visitado or he comido, you can't separate those two. They've got to stay together. You can't put anything in the middle. In English, we can. Yeah.
For example, have you ever visited?
Exactly.
So you have the have and visited separated.
Yeah. In Spanish, you can't do that. You must keep them together. And so what happens is any pronouns that you have to come before. Okay? For example, you could say, ¿has comido la empanada? Have you eaten the pie? Who's eaten all the pies? Have you eaten the pie? The answer is no. No la he comido. And so the la for empanada has to go at the front. Okay? It can't go at the end. It won't go there, yeah?
Okay, I was thinking more of the personal pronoun, but that's a good one as well.
Ah, okay.
So if you want to use the personal pronoun, you would say, yo he visitado España. If it's negative, yo no he visitado España.
And is it true, Cynthia, or is it not, that the personal pronoun is quite flexible in Spanish?
It is.
Can you say, he visitado España yo?
I mean, you can. In some sentences, it won't sound natural. It depends on what kind of sentence, or if it's a question or an affirmation. So if you don't know where to put it, just put it at the beginning.
Yeah, that's the first place to put it. But you'll hear Spanish speakers popping it, sometimes not using it.
Yeah.
And sometimes popping it at the end because it doesn't have the importance that it does in English. Whereas if we speak without the pronoun, we don't know who we're talking about. But when you say he comido, we know you're saying I have eaten. You don't need to say yo he comido.
So what happens if you have a direct and indirect pronoun in the same sentence with
the
present perfect?
So what happens, the same applies to any structure, any grammatical structure in Spanish. We have to follow the R.I.D rule, which is we have to follow the order of reflexive, indirect, direct. It doesn't matter what pronouns we have, they have to be in that particular order. So if you've got two pronouns with the present perfect tense, for example,
I ate the steak yesterday. I ate it up. Okay.
So what happens is you say me, which is the reflexive, and then lo, because we're talking about el filete, lo, which is the direct, yeah. So you say, me lo he comido. Yeah?
Okay.
Me lo he comido.
What about I have given you the letter? I have given you it.
You it. Okay. So, to you, it I have given is how you have to do it, because the to you is the indirect and the it, the letter, is the direct. So you have to follow this R.I.D rule. So it would be te lo he dado.
Well, in this case, it would be te la
Because
he
es una
dado.
carta, te la he dado.
He dado.
Sí. Okay. So all the pronouns beforehand, never split up the he comido, never split that up, and follow the R.I.D rule when you're adding the pronouns. And you'll do it well.
Muy bien, Gordon.
Lo harás bien. Bien, muchas gracias, Cynthia, por pasar un ratito con nosotros. And with all of the podcasts that we're doing and the ones that we've done before, the first 40, we have help sheets that go with them that explain a bit more in more depth and give you some homework as well. You'll find the link in the video information. Pues ahora nos vamos.
Y nos vemos.
Hasta luego.
Adiós.
Adiós.